Tonight, we are live in Austin, Texas, where 5 U.S. presidents coming together to honor the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act. Our own Andrew Whitman, he's live in Houston with a look. Reverend Al, the rat, well, shocking new allegations accuse Sharpton of, get this, being a snitch. Did he do dirty work for the feds? Plus, tonight, author Kevin Cook joins the panel to discuss his new book surrounding the murder of Kitty Genovese. He says there are some misconceptions about the case that we are still talking about all these decades later. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I am Richard French, and thank you so much for joining us this Tuesday evening, April 8th. And tonight we begin in Austin, Texas, where a 3-day event commemorating the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act has just gotten underway today. And we're joined live tonight by one of our own senior political correspondent, Andrew Whitman. He is there at the event here. And Andrew, it's a 3-day event here, but it's really covering the last 50 years of American history in many ways.
You know, and not just the last 50 years in history, but the next 50 years to come, as this, we're really learning that this is a living, breathing document as we bid you a good evening here from the University of Texas campus in Austin and the Lyndon Johnson Presidential Library behind me, Rich. You know, most people, when they think of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, or if you read a textbook, the images that come to mind are of the civil rights movement of the 50s and the 60s, or the March on Washington, or Martin Luther King. But as we're hearing time and time again at this Civil Rights Summit this week, the impact of the 64 Civil Rights Act has gone much, much further. We've learned about civil rights for gay and lesbian couples. Same-sex marriage today is a civil right. Gender equality is a civil right. Even questions about whether immigration is a civil right. But all of that, all of what's happened in the last 50 years and what may happen going forward, all of that cloaked and bathed in the history of that key moment 50 years ago. We shall overcome. That was a strong part of the mantra assumed by so many who believed in change and a better America during the civil rights era. And today in Austin, Texas, people from every corner of the country are coming together to honor that theme. We shall overcome. They are descending upon the Lyndon B. Johnson Presidential Library for a 3-day summit on civil rights to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, one of the largest achievements of Lyndon Johnson's presidency. The act outlawed discrimination in public places based on race, ethnicity, religion, or gender. However, it does not end there. Moderators and attendees are reflecting on the world in which we live now and analyzing the need for continued societal change. On the table for today, same-sex marriage.
Like the battle for racial civil rights, for a long time people denied that this was a civil rights issue. They defended it on religious grounds, on constitutional grounds, on grounds of tradition, on grounds of protecting the family. All of the ways that we have, over the course of the history of our country, tried to deny to one group of our citizens the equal rights that our Declaration of Independence and Constitution promises to everybody.
A second panel today examined another hot-button topic and asked, is immigration a civil right? Tonight, panelists will also examine music and how it's been and continues to be an instrument for social change. Later this week, we'll hear from Bill Clinton, former NAACP chairman Julian Bond, and former tennis champion Billie Jean King, to name a very few. The message, civil rights have not been won for everyone. However, the strength of the human spirit has, and willingness to fight for civil liberties has not been lost. And again, this topic, civil rights, this forum, this Civil Rights Summit, so important that all 5 living presidents will be here, 4 of whom will speak. Tonight, the keynote address, that comes from the 39th President of the United States, Jimmy Carter. That in just a few minutes. That is the latest here from the UT Austin campus in Austin, Texas. Rich, let's send it back to you in the studio.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew. And I want to bring in our panel tonight. We are joined by Dominic Carter, political journalist and author, of course, and Philip Reisman, columnist with the Journal News. Gentlemen, welcome both here. It's funny, you look at 50 years and how long some change is taken, and then really how rapid some other change is taken. And you look at some of that grainy video, Dominic, right, about where we were in 1964. And we're going to be talking about a little bit later a seminal criminal case that happened also in the 60s as well. That it's amazing how much has and hasn't changed in certain ways, and still how different and separate we are as a country, but in certain ways how we've come together in different areas. It's kind of an interesting snapshot a half a century later.
Let's start with the number one premise. America deserves a lot of credit, in my humble opinion, for the improvement in terms of race relations. Think about 50 years ago, how contentious this issue was. You had people out on the street protesting, being attacked by dogs with police officers and so on. And so to now fast forward 50 years later, enormous accomplishment. There's still an awful lot to be done to bring about equal rights for all, but it has branched out, and that's a good thing in my opinion, to other issues like gay marriage and so on and so on. And so they can all fall under that umbrella, but I think overall, America deserves an awful lot of credit for how far the country has grown.
And it's amazing, Phil, when Johnson signed that. I was surprised, and I look back, it wasn't along political lines as much as you think right now. If there's ever a social policy, you can close your eyes and throw a dart. You know, if it hits a D, they're going to be one way, an R to the other one. Back then, this was more regional. I mean, this was depending on where the country, that had a large way of how you voted for this.
Well, he was, as you know, he was very good at twisting arms and very good at getting...
Sometimes breaking them.
Sometimes breaking them. And we've seen the picture of him looming over the senator, the recalcitrant senator. But he signed the legislation in the Capitol. I mean, imagine that. I mean, he in other words, he gave credit to other people in Congress. But as a result of this, also suddenly we had the Southern strategy in politics right after that. I mean, so Dominic's right. And you're right. This is a continuous thing going back before the Civil War. We are still in a kind of a civil war, and even with all these moments of great progress and everything, and we have a black president.
Right, and it's interesting.
Let's not forget that part.
Absolutely, these 3
50
days
years later
that they're going to focus on this, it's not just about the race issue. There's also the gender and the sexuality issue, and I can't remember in my lifetime. Gay marriage, if you think about the velocity of how much has changed in so long, and even in where people I know that I respect say, well, you know what, let's just do the civil union thing. Let's do it civil marriage. Now it's like, I can't believe I ever said that. Well, why not gay marriage? Politically, you're in trouble if you don't. But certain issues move so fast, and certain other issues, 50 years later, we still struggle with as a country. And we're going to be talking more about that over the course of this hour, and certainly Andrew's going to have much more of that over the next 3 days in the Capitol in Texas. All right. Now, again, as I mentioned, this kicks off our first day of coverage here from Texas, and Andrew is there. And as you mentioned, you will have all 5 living presidents that will be there. How often can you say that? But they will be there for this anniversary and summit. Okay, when we come back here, we are taking a look at some of the top 10 ways, David Letterman style, that our guest Bill Reisman says that the Republican hopeful for governor in New York, Westchester County Executive Rob Astorino, can become instantly known. Some good stuff here. That and a lot more as we take a look at some New York issues right after this.